Welcome back. We want to take you to breaking news now.
Border Patrol agents found a man-made tunnel connecting Juarez in Mexico to El Paso, Texas.
Recently, the United States government has taken a strong stance against illegal immigration and invasion, as the new administration, under President Trump, likes to call it. The government is also ramping up its efforts to deport illegal migrants, in many cases, even without proper due process, all in the name of safety and for crushing the organized criminal element inside the borders of the United States. But what if all of these efforts did not amount to anything? What if the controlled substances flowed freely still? What if there was something that the authorities were missing? Recently, the US shut down the Texas border and discovered something terrifying underground. You're not going to want to miss this. The US-Mexico border and smuggling tunnels. Stretching nearly 2,000 miles from California to Texas, the US-Mexico border has long been a focal point of geopolitical tension, immigration reform debates, and cross-border crime.
The deportation process begins. I'm told migrants have a very short window of time to fight that.
One of the most persistent challenges along this vast frontier is the issue of smuggling controlled substances and trafficking people, orchestrated primarily by powerful Mexican cartels. While the US has invested billions of dollars in surface-level enforcement, such as building barriers, deploying surveillance drones, and expanding the Border Patrol force, smugglers have responded with an increasingly sophisticated set of tools.
The Department of Homeland Security teaming up with some of the sharpest minds in Silicon Valley to develop more surveillance drones.
Among the most elusive and alarming of these are underground tunnels, which bypass traditional security measures and enable covert movement of narcotics, people, weapons, and currency across the international boundary. Yes, the border is still compromised, and the US government does not know for sure to what extent. Smuggling tunnels are nothing new. The first major tunnel linked to cartel activity was discovered in 1990 near Douglas, Arizona.
US authorities have discovered a sophisticated tunnel equipped with lights and ventilation leading from southern Arizona into Mexico.
However, in the past 2 decades, these subterranean passages have grown in both number and complexity. Between 1990 and 2023, US Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, documented at least 130 tunnels along the southern border. These figures, while staggering, likely understate the true number of tunnels that have either collapsed, been abandoned, or remain undetected. Cartels, particularly the Sinaloa Cartel and Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG, have shown exceptional ingenuity in crafting tunnels that rival commercial infrastructure in their construction quality. In Texas, which shares a 1,254-mile border with Mexico, cartel tunnels have been intermittently discovered in cities such as El Paso, Eagle Pass, Laredo, and Brownsville, while California's Otay Mesa region remains the most notorious hub for tunnel activity, owing to its dry terrain and proximity to Tijuana's cartel-controlled zones. Texas has seen a worrying rise in tunnel-related incidents in recent years. In April 2023, a short but well-hidden tunnel was found in El Paso's lower valley, beneath a seemingly abandoned structure. Though only 50 feet long, the tunnel connected to a stormwater drain system, indicating that even natural infrastructure is being exploited for smuggling operations. What makes these tunnels particularly dangerous is their range of technical sophistication. While many are rudimentary, nothing more than hand-dug shafts used for one-off crossings, others are elaborate, industrial-level operations that demonstrate cartel access to engineering expertise and financial resources. The more advanced tunnels are reinforced with concrete, outfitted with lighting systems powered by underground electricity lines, and even ventilated to ensure safe passage for people and perishable goods. Some tunnels, discovered in Otay Mesa and San Luis, Arizona, have included rail systems or conveyor belts used to rapidly move bulk shipments of controlled substances. In a May 2020 DEA seizure, authorities discovered a tunnel in San Diego that measured over 4,300 feet long, more than 3/4 of a mile. It featured a rail cart system, extensive lighting, ventilation, and reinforced walls. This was among the longest and most sophisticated tunnels ever uncovered in US history. Many of these tunnels are built beneath innocuous structures that blend into residential or commercial neighborhoods. In one case in Calexico, California, a tunnel entrance was found under a fast food franchise. In another, smugglers had bored a shaft beneath a warehouse operating as a furniture store.
A first for this area where someone built a house for the sole purpose of making a drug tunnel.
Similarly, storm drains, municipal water systems, and even the foundations of homes have been co-opted as cover for tunnel operations. These entry and exit points are often located just a few hundred feet from the border wall, proving that physical barriers alone cannot address the full scope of illicit cross-border activity. To combat this growing underground threat, US authorities have scaled up technological and intelligence sharing efforts. The Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, along with CBP's Tunnel Detection and Technology Program, or TDTP, has deployed ground-penetrating radar, seismic sensors, and fiber optic cables in high-risk areas. These tools allow agents to detect disturbances in the soil and track potential tunneling activities in real time. However, the success of these methods is often constrained by terrain, urban noise pollution, and limited coverage. In areas like El Paso or Nogales, Arizona, where urban density is high, underground surveillance becomes particularly complex. The United States-Mexico High-Level Security Dialogue, initiated in 2021, has emphasized joint efforts to dismantle transnational criminal organizations and disrupt tunnel construction. Mexican authorities, under pressure to act decisively, have worked with US agencies like the DEA and ICEHSI, which is short for Immigration and Customs Enforcement Homeland Security Investigations, to locate tunnel entrances on their side of the border, particularly in cartel-controlled municipalities such as Tijuana, Juarez, and Reynosa. The Mexican military Sedena has also played a role in locating and destroying tunnels, although corruption and cartel intimidation have often limited the efficacy of these operations. The tunnel threat also intersects with the growing national concern over the smuggling of controlled substances. According to CBP data, 2023 saw a record 26,700 pounds of fentanyl seized at the southern border, much of it entering through legal ports of entry concealed in vehicles. However, experts believe that tunnels, because of their invisibility, are an increasingly important conduit for high-purity fentanyl shipments. Given that just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be fatal, even a single tunnel can pose an outsized threat to public safety. This has prompted bipartisan calls in Congress for increased funding for subterranean surveillance systems. In July 2024, the House passed a measure allocating $120 million for the deployment of AI-assisted tunnel detection technologies along high-risk sectors in Texas and Arizona. Trafficking is another dark aspect of tunnel use. While most migrants enter the US through open desert crossings or official ports of entry, tunnels have occasionally been used to smuggle high-value individuals or vulnerable populations, particularly unaccompanied minors and exploited women. In 2019, a tunnel discovered near Nogales included sleeping quarters, food storage areas, and makeshift medical stations, suggesting that it had been used to house people during prolonged underground journeys. Despite these challenges, tunnel activity remains difficult to track comprehensively. Many tunnels collapse after brief use or are deliberately abandoned to mislead law enforcement. Others are used intermittently, depending on cartel needs and law enforcement pressure. The economic disparity between the US and Mexico, coupled with demand for illegal substances in American cities, ensures a steady flow of such shipments. Presently, CBP estimates that over 40 tunnels are discovered each year, but they suspect this is just a fraction of the total number in operation or under construction. The Biden administration has made tunnel interdiction part of its broader border strategy, especially after the lifting of Title 42 in May 2023.
Migrant advocates have sued over immigration policies set to take effect after Title 42 ended last night.
While much of the public debate has focused on asylum policies, detention capacity, and border wall expansion, behind the scenes, federal agencies have increased their focus on subterranean threats. In late 2024, DHS partnered with DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, to begin testing mobile tunnel detection drones capable of mapping underground anomalies in real time. Early results from the pilot programs in El Paso and Yuma suggest promising developments, though wide-scale deployment remains limited by cost and technical hurdles. For US authorities, addressing the tunnel problem requires more than just boots on the ground. It demands a sophisticated mix of technology, bilateral cooperation, intelligence gathering, and community-based vigilance. As tunnel networks become more elaborate and potentially more dangerous, the stakes grow higher, not just for law enforcement, but for the integrity of the USA itself. So, what have they found recently in Texas? Recent tunnel discoveries in Texas and beyond. In January 2025, US border authorities made a significant discovery in El Paso, Texas, an active cross-border tunnel hidden within the city's storm drainage system. This tunnel, which measured approximately 6 feet in height and 4 feet in width, had been covertly constructed beneath an area often overlooked due to its legitimate civic function. It was found during a routine patrol conducted jointly by US Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security investigations, with support from the FBI and Mexican federal forces. Located in the Lower Valley sector of El Paso, not far from the international line separating the US from Ciudad Juarez, the tunnel featured rudimentary but effective enhancements, including wooden supports and electric lighting. Investigators believe the structure was operational, likely used for smuggling narcotics or undocumented individuals across the border. This was not the first tunnel discovered in the El Paso sector, but what stood out was its level of concealment and its integration into public infrastructure. Authorities noted that the smugglers had made calculated use of the existing drainage system to mask construction sounds and reduce ground disturbance detectable by seismic sensors. So, how did they find it? Well, the credit goes to a tip received by the FBI. The department then launched a surveillance operation culminating in the early morning raid on January 8, 2025. While no arrests were immediately made at the scene, the tunnel was promptly sealed, and a broader investigation into cartel networks in Juarez was initiated. Roughly a month earlier, in late 2024, another highly advanced tunnel was discovered in Otay Mesa, California, a region long known as a hotspot for tunnel activity. Stretching nearly 3,000 feet from Tijuana's industrial zone to a warehouse in San Diego County, this tunnel descended to a depth of nearly 50 feet.
Authorities discovered a drug tunnel between San Diego and Tijuana. The tunnel, the length of 6 football fields,
and was among the most sophisticated uncovered to date. Equipped with a fully operational railcart system, commercial-grade lighting, ventilation ducts, and reinforced concrete walls, the Otay Mesa tunnel was designed for durability and high-volume use. US officials from CBP, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and CHESI concluded that its construction had likely spanned several months, if not years, without detection. The San Diego Tunnel Task Force, a multi-agency unit that includes personnel from the DEA, CBP, ICHSI, and local law enforcement, coordinated the operation. The tunnel's northern exit was hidden beneath a warehouse that appeared vacant on the books, but was actively receiving large vehicle shipments weekly. According to seizure documents filed in federal court, agents recovered over 4,000 pounds of methamphetamine and fentanyl precursors just 100 feet from the tunnel's exit. The DEA stated that the scale and complexity of the tunnel suggested direct involvement of the Sinaloa cartel, which has historically used Otay Mesa as a strategic entry point for high-value narcotics. The implications of such tunnel discoveries are deeply troubling for US national security and law enforcement. The use of underground routes bypasses most surface-level security technologies, including drones, towers, cameras, and the border wall. These tunnels allow criminal organizations to transport massive quantities of contraband without triggering sensors or surveillance systems. In the case of the Otay Mesa tunnel, the estimated monthly movement capacity was between 10 and 15 metric tons of narcotics. enough to supply a regional market and cause significant public health damage. CBP has stated that these operations are not mum-and-pop schemes, but complex ventures involving millions of dollars in equipment, coordinated construction teams, and deep logistical planning on both sides of the border. Tunnels are also attractive conduits for illegal cross-border immigration. While less common due to the physical risks of passage, some high-value targets, such as persons wanted for extradition or individuals trying to avoid biometric detection at ports of entry, may pay large sums to cross via tunnels. In 2022, a tunnel in Mexicali was found to have sleeping chambers, food stockpiles, and water storage, indicating it had been used to move people in addition to narcotics. Though no such evidence was found in the El Paso or Otay Mesa tunnels most recently, CBP warns that the use of these underground networks for human trafficking remains a serious risk. Another concern, raised by security experts, is the potential for tunnels to be exploited by hostile non-state actors, including terrorist operatives. While there is currently no confirmed evidence of terrorist infiltration through US-Mexico border tunnels, DHS and the FBI have raised red flags in internal reports, noting the possibility of such infrastructure being used for infiltration or sabotage. The tunnels could, in theory, be repurposed to smuggle weapons, explosives, or even biological agents. In 2021, a joint DHS-CBP intelligence bulletin warned that critical infrastructure near high-risk tunnel zones remains vulnerable in the absence of advanced detection and rapid response mechanisms. Additionally, the challenge of tunnel detection remains formidable. Most tunnels are discovered by accident, either through tips, ground collapses, or during unrelated law enforcement operations. The Tunnel Detection and Technology Program, operated under CBP, uses a mix of ground-penetrating radar, magnetic field sensors, and seismic devices to monitor known high-risk zones. However, the terrain near the border varies widely, and urban noise or underground infrastructure such as sewage lines and subways can distort sensor readings. In 2024, CBP piloted a new tunnel mapping drone system developed in partnership with DARPA, which showed promising results in identifying shallow subsurface anomalies in desert areas. Nevertheless, widespread deployment of these technologies remains limited due to cost constraints and the sheer scale of the border, which is nearly 2,000 miles long, with more than 650 miles already fortified by barriers or fencing. The discovery of the El Paso tunnel in 2025 also reignited debate in the Texas legislature about resource allocation for border security. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who has consistently pushed for state-funded border operations under Operation Lone Star, called the discovery a reminder that federal inaction requires strong state leadership. In response, the Texas Department of Public Safety announced a new partnership with local universities to develop AI-assisted geological monitoring systems. Meanwhile, at the federal level, the U.S. Senate's Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee convened a hearing in February 2025 to assess progress on tunnel detection and prevention technologies. International cooperation also remains key. The discovery of the Otay Mesa tunnel, for example, was possible due to a tip-off from Mexico's Secretaría de la Defensa Nacional, or SEDENA, which had identified unusual nighttime construction noise in Tijuana. Mexican Marines, working alongside HSI and the DEA, traced the noise to a warehouse controlled by a known Sinaloa cartel affiliate. The subsequent surveillance operation confirmed ongoing tunneling activity, which was then relayed to US counterparts through formal cross-border intelligence channels. Despite historical tensions in US-Mexico relations over border enforcement, this operation demonstrated the vital role of bilateral cooperation in dismantling tunnel networks. But the cartel hasn't stopped with tunnels. Evolving cartel strategies and US response. The cartels have significantly diversified their smuggling tactics beyond tunnels.
A major drug smuggling tunnel has been uncovered at the border.
Federal authorities found the tunnel between warehouses in Tijuana and Otay Mesa,
adapting to heightened detection efforts by US authorities. For starters, small commercial drones have become a favored tool for short-range narcotics drops and surveillance, often flying low to evade radar, while larger drones, Some retrofitted with GPS navigation and thermal shielding are used to transport high-value payloads across hard-to-patrol areas, like the Rio Grande or Arizona's remote desert stretches. According to DEA and CBP reports, drone incursions have surged over the past 3 years, with more than 45 known smuggling flights documented in northern Mexico alone in 2022, and a 23% increase in drone launches detected along the Rio Grande in early 2024. In the maritime domain, smuggling organizations have employed semi-submersibles, nicknamed narco-subs, especially along the Pacific coastline, capable of carrying tons of controlled substances and often designed to scuttle after delivery to evade capture. Additionally, makeshift submarines and modified fishing vessels have been detected near the Gulf of Mexico and coastal routes leading toward Corpus Christi and Florida. These operations are often coordinated with satellite phones and spotters on both sides of the border, allowing cartels to create layered, multimodal networks that combine tunnels, drones, airdrops, and sea routes. This adaptive, tech-savvy approach shows how cartels continue to outpace static security strategies, keeping U.S. agencies on their toes. The United States, for its part, has intensified its efforts to counter the persistent and increasingly sophisticated threat posed by cartel tunnels. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has deployed tunnel detection teams, formed under the Tunnel Detection and Technology Program, which utilize technologies such as ground-penetrating radar, seismic sensors, and surveillance drones to identify hidden passageways in hotspot areas like Otay Mesa, El Paso, and Nogales. Once discovered, tunnels are typically filled with concrete to prevent reuse, with support from agencies like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Interagency collaboration is vital, with the DEA, FBI, DHS, and local law enforcement contributing to detection, intelligence, and interdiction efforts. Joint operations with Mexican military and law enforcement, such as Sedena and SEMA, have led to significant tunnel busts and seizures of controlled substances, supported by frameworks like the U.S.-Mexico Bilateral Framework for Security. Legal tools, including property forfeiture laws and enhanced penalties, are used to deter and prosecute those involved. Surveillance networks using drones, cameras, and community tip lines further support detection, with public reports playing a role in tunnel discoveries in places like Laredo and Calexico. Despite these efforts, the cartels continue to adapt, making them an ongoing challenge for border and national security operations. The US government understands the expanded risk all too well. They've even deployed MQ-9 Reaper drones to monitor high-risk areas. Temporary border closures and heightened National Guard presence have become tactical responses to localized threats, including cartel violence and environmental disruptions. The expiration of Title 42 in 2023 spurred legal and logistical reforms, such as expedited removals under Operation Expanded Enforcement, new parole pathways, and the expansion of digital processing through the CBP One app, though concerns persist over security gaps and resource allocation. Meanwhile, CBP's 2025 budget prioritizes subterranean detection R&D and AI-driven surveillance, but experts warn that cartel adaptations, such as multimodal smuggling and deep tunneling, demand greater investment in next-gen technologies and trilateral cooperation. While these measures have increased tunnel interdictions and disrupted smuggling operations, political tensions over immigration policy and civil liberties continue to shape the national debate, highlighting the need for a balanced, forward-looking approach. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.